Hey guys, welcome to another
Hi.
episode of Siffany's Walk with Grace.
Hello.
So I had a situation the other day where I had that normal human emotion of I'm screwing everything up. Everything I touch is getting destroyed. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person that's felt that way. And yet again, called Mama. And talked me through it, helped me work through it, and I feel a lot better. And I figured, you know what, this might be a good video. Well, actually, she figured this might be a good video. I can't even take the that was her, but the way that she walked me through it, I feel like might be beneficial to some of you as well because it is a easy, woo, but unique take. Um, so we're just gonna jump right on in today.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm Siffany, and this is
This
Grace.
is hi. Um, well, yesterday as the situation was happening, um, I worked more with you, I guess, with just kind of the situation, how to deal with what was happening at hand, right? And that was kind of the bulk of our time on the phone. But towards the end was when you started mentioning how awful you felt, how broken you felt, how, in your words, fucked up you are. um, and, I kind of commiserated with you, I understand, but I also kind of intuitively knew maybe it wasn't the right time to do this one process with you to see if you would be willing to do that with me. And we talked this morning before getting on, and Siffany said she was more than willing to do this with me right now, with you, um, the audience, kind of looking on and just kind of experiencing yourselves. I'm sure, I think, my hope is that you'll be able to kind of put yourself in her shoes and find. So I'd like you, if you're willing, to kind of think of a situation that's been difficult for you lately, and I'll ask Siffany to kind of bring up just in her mind, not we don't need to share exactly what it was or the story behind it. And I'd like to talk about that for a second too.
Every parent has moments where they're like, "Oh, I feel horrible," and it was one of those moments.
It was one of
You're
those
caught up.
moments. So I'd like to talk about content versus form. Content, in my eyes, is kind of the underlying theme, okay? And you can easily kind of pick up on the theme, okay? Like she's mentioning, I feel like a awful parent, right? Um, we've all felt that. Um, so that's an easy one to kind of grab onto. So that's the content. The content is kind of that parenting piece, okay? The form, in my mind, is the story, your story of how it plays out, okay? So we talk, and we'll talk about our stories and how they've played out. That's the form. That's our understanding of it, of how it played out. But the content, if you can grasp onto the content so that you can make it applicable to yourself, that's I want you to try to maybe keep those two things apart, because we wind up fighting over the form, our stories, right? But if we can get down to what's really going on underneath all that, those beliefs, where what beliefs have you agreed with from others, and so what's the belief that's driving the emotion, okay? That's really hard to get to when we're just talking about the stories.
And especially
Okay.
when you're frazzled and in the moment,
When you're
like, what's
frazzled,
driving your emotion? I'm pissed, that's why.
I'm angry. Yes. And so
Okay, but let's break that down just a little more.
Yep, let's break that down. So that's what I'm going to head into right now with Siffany. So um, put yourself kind of back into the situation yesterday, right? There towards the end, you were really feeling, that you were kind of messing everything up and you can't do anything right. And in some, so try to bring that sense back to you, okay, and get into that feeling. um how does it feel to be doing all these things and trying to make it right and trying to do the right thing, and it feels like it's blowing up in your face? How's that feel?
Definitely negative. I think in a sense for me, it brings a sense of fear. Um,
Fear.
Fear to aim for success because of the failures along the way. Fear to succeed because all I know, or not all you know, but once you succeed, you have more to lose, and when you have more to lose, that becomes a little scary when you've already lost everything a few times, and so that can be brought into any situation, like even friendships, right? So I think for me, part of it is that like, oh my gosh, I'm destroying everything I touch, and what is wrong with me? So there's also that feeling of like, where am I having a defect today? Like just
Mm.
feeling defective and feeling
Yeah.
like inadequate. Um, but then there's also a small sense of guilt because like I kind of went off yesterday morning. Like my poor whole household got to wake up to me screaming because I was like, yeah,
Mm.
it was a big deal, the situation, and it's not like I like was beating my kid or anything like that. Like I promise you that's not what's going on, okay? But like there were some lectures happening, there was a very big argument between me and my child, and that's
Mm.
where I was feeling like crap about it. So I think then I also felt bad because like my whole house got woken up this way and had like this super crappy morning right alongside us, and they weren't even involved. And so that led to a sense of guilt.
Okay.
Um,
I'm gonna
so
pause you
yeah,
there. Okay. Get into that sense of guilt for a second. Um, where does that guilt lead you?
sadness and back to inadequacy.
In inadequacy, and what might happen? Um, what's happened in the past? You know, when you're doing all these things and it's not working out, and you're getting more and more frustrated, and you're you're reacting now to others reacting to you, and how did that feel?
Pretty awful and kind of embarrassing.
Oh, embarrassing. Okay, embarrassing.
Not gonna
Embarrassed
lie.
why?
Um,
Did you feel yourself kind of being out of control?
a little bit. I know you know this about me. The crowd doesn't. I'm not a morning person. I have a lot of physical pains that I deal with, and so before my brain can actually wake up and the wires actually feel the connection going on, I don't have a filter. And because of how much pain I wake up in, I wake up kind of not kind of, I wake up grumpy as hell. And so having that situation happen, like I'm already embarrassed because I wake up that way, and I'm already embarrassed because I don't know how to make that connection quicker to where it doesn't seep into other people. And it only takes about 30 minutes for it to happen, but if something happens in that 30 minutes, then I'm embarrassed because I haven't figured out how to resolve that problem yet. And
Okay.
I guess to a degree, like, maybe it makes me feel a little stupid. Like, I watch all these people wake up and they're like, hee hee hee, and I'm like,
Why can't that be me?
why
Okay.
am I waking up like, ah?
Yeah. Okay. It sounds like too, maybe one of the things that's happening is, you know, you're up, you're grumpy, you're hurting, you're not quite ready for life to start happening. Things start happening, and you start reacting kind of negatively. How does it feel to be reacting that way to the people you love the most?
Definitely hurts. Like, I think the worst
Mm-hmm.
part about it is knowing that you're hurting them.
And how's that feel?
Awful.
Awful. Awful. How come?
Because all I want to do is give love.
Okay.
And it's almost like a loss of control. Like I'm not in control. And I know
Mm-hmm.
that's also a very normal feeling. Even look at the animal kingdom; they strive for control in their own territories as well with their own groups of animals. And so,
Yeah.
control is, I feel, a base characteristic of a living creature. And not having control over yourself is one of the hardest things to do, because you're one of the few things that you have full control over. And so it's very frustrating and it's very overwhelming and saddening, because the last thing you want to do is hurt those people, but that seems to be the first thing that happens.
Yeah. Okay.
But also grateful once you work through it,
once you work through it,
they didn't leave.
Yeah. So what's the fear behind hurting the one you love?
I think the fear that they might walk away,
Okay.
and just the fear of disappointing them.
Okay. Fear they're going to walk away is probably the most fearful thing in the world. Okay.
And that goes back to that loss, fear of loss.
Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment. Okay. The one thing the human needs more than anything is to know it's not alone. And to know that you're loved no matter what. Mm-hmm. And yet the world shows us, and sometimes we need to put boundaries out there, right?
Unfortunately.
There are times that we have to say, you know what? That's too painful. I can't take that. You're hurting me. Okay. So if we can get down to, in my eyes, the root of all our problems really comes down to a rejection. Mm-hmm. And a rejection, what you're doing in the morning as you're waking up and you're grumpy and things start happening and then you start feeling really bad, is you're actually rejecting yourself first. You're saying, oh, this is not okay. I'm bad. I shouldn't be doing this, right? And so then that attack inward, guess what?
Grows outward.
Goes outward.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So now, way better to attack out here than to accept and think about and take ownership and responsibility for what's going on inside. Okay?
And the taking ownership side sucks, because afterwards I gotta go apologize to everybody and hope to God they're gonna forgive me, and hope that we can still have a good day, and then the walk of shame all the way through the house. Yeah. So it's the part about the asking for forgiveness is one of the hardest pieces, but it's also one of the most important.
It is. And truly it comes down to being able to forgive yourself first. To understand, one of my favorite sayings is, it is what it is. We reject the parts of us that, guess what, are a part of you. It's impossible. You, at this stage, I don't know if you're ever going to be able to wake up and say, woohoo, let's start the day.
When I go to Waterworld. Or when I got a vacation coming up.
Yeah. But don't you really want to be able
But I would love to do it every day instead.
Every day, right?
And I don't drink coffee either. So I watch people wake up and have a shot of espresso and they're like, woohoo, let's do this. And I'm like, okay, this is soda number 3. Where's my energy spike?
Where's your energy? Yeah.
So that doesn't help. I'm not using that as an excuse by any means, but I feel like if I could wake up quicker, it would help. And Monster's just not good for you, so I'm not going to do that every day. Yeah. I drink the crap out of it, but not daily.
So I like to work with things two ways. One, you have to, once you've decided and taking responsibility, this is kind of who and what I am in the morning, I'm working on it, and have that acceptance piece, then how can you work on your environment? Work on your environment and figure it out. So do you need to wake up in your bedroom and stay there for a while before you come out? Do your family members need to know ahead of time, hey, try not to talk to mom for 15 minutes or
we knew with her, if she didn't have her cup of coffee, you better run.
Yeah. So I did. I asked for it, and
we delivered.
For the most part, and
okay,
then I had to be careful, because I understood you were doing your best to try to honor what I needed, but sometimes you had a need that you couldn't wait for, and then, which is another piece of this, then I had to be okay to do what was required in the moment. Put myself aside. It's time to, give. And, maybe tomorrow I'll get my half hour, but not today. So, and just be okay with that. So the principle of it is what it is very important. Because then from that place, when you really accept responsibility and understand, okay, this kind of is what it is, and I am working on changing it, but it is what it is. And how best to think about myself. So you want others to forgive you. Can you forgive yourself? And it always boils down to, can you forgive yourself? Because if someone said, if I say, it's okay, Holly, I forgive you. I know you've had a rough morning. That might last you for a little bit, but it's false. You're not going to believe that. You might believe it for a minute. You might believe it for 5 minutes. Half an hour later, you're back to your old way of thinking. So until you can accept it, deal with it, and feel it in yourself and work on that forgiveness of yourself, then you'll start to see more
forgiveness from the outside.
You will. That sometimes I think that's a really hard concept, but you will. As you're able to forgive yourself. Why? Because now you're bringing a softness to the situation, which helps others to kind of catch on and be a little softer themselves. But yeah, so as you do it in yourself, it will start emanating back to you, because you're gonna naturally be giving that out, and so you're gonna naturally start getting it back. So, the process I kind of worked with Siffany was, oftentimes, we're angry, we're frustrated, we're not really thinking. And a lot of times, as I was doing this process in the beginning, I couldn't do it in the moment. The situation happened the way it did, the story, the form, but the content was, I really screwed up, and now I feel awful, and I feel like a real big piece of shit. I'm just gonna stay home and stay away from everybody because I don't want to hurt anyone else. But if you start thinking of when you have some time to be able to sit quietly with yourself, ask yourself, why am I angry? Let yourself kind of go through the scenario, which we didn't do this morning here, but allow yourself to go into this scenario, in your mind. Go ahead, play it out, bring it back up into the forefront. Be angry, and as you're doing that, what you're really doing is you're letting some of that out so you can get under it, okay? Because anger is always fed by something. And it always boils down to some kind of fear. And it always boils down to my self-worth, fear of rejection, and ultimately fear of life itself. I don't want to be alone in the world. I don't want to die. I'm afraid they're going to die. I mean, it really can be catastrophizing, but we typically don't want to face that, so we're just going to cover it up, and we're going to cover it up with anger. But you keep working with this process, so you play around in your head, bringing up the scenario, being upset, and then ask yourself, why does that upset me so much? Okay, then you're going to start moving inward. Get my boots.
Our little ESA came to say hi. He's debating on jumping up.
But keep moving yourself inward. Keep moving yourself to the deeper feelings. And when you get to those feelings of, oh, it's me. I feel like unworthy to be here. I feel like I don't deserve the love that I have. That's the piece that you can start working with. And when you get to those feelings, feel those as well, and then start working on those beliefs. I am okay.
And remind yourself that it's okay to feel that way too. Like, it might not feel good to feel that way, but it's not okay. Like, we all go through a time where we feel some kind of way that we end up embarrassed about or something later, but at the end of the day, we're not the only ones that feel that. It's natural to feel that way. We just have to break it down and work through it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Do you believe that you're worthy? You're worthy of love. You're worthy of living a life of your passion and your dreams.
It's funny she says that, because that says you are worthy, and it's in her handwriting.
Mm-hmm. Which was kind of cool. That was really neat. I love her idea.
I did mine on this side with.
Yep. Yeah.
Just a reminder.
Yep, that's the reminder. So that's the work, that I think Siffany and I are really here to do, is to learn acceptance of self, take responsibility for self, and
love self.
Love yourself. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I personally need more of a visual reminder. So one says worthy, one says belong, and both wrists are done. Mm-hmm. So that visual reminder helps me a lot, actually. And so if that's something that might help you too, then throw a sticky note on a mirror, or keep a inspirational quote in your wallet, so every time you look it up you see it, or look it up, open it up. I can English. Yeah. But you get the gist. So for me, I needed the visual. I needed a more constant visual. So for me, just having it in the wallet wasn't enough. And there's nothing wrong with that. So
nothing wrong with reminders.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I love mantras and sayings like that, whatever helps kind of get you back to your center.
And I think I'd like to end with my favorite mantra, if you're finished.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this actually kind of, I don't remember if I heard it or if it just came to me, but because I'm right a lot, it's possible either way. What's done is done. What's past is past. The future's what will always last. So dry your tears, wipe them away, for there will be a better day. And that has gotten me through so many hard times, you guys. So find something that sticks with you. And on that note, thank you for joining us for another episode of Siffany's Walk with Grace.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye.